God!
It's like she's in a fight scene in a movie.
Yeah. Today on this exciting episode of Zebadextra Beats Phebo, we are going to be discussing the movie Tar, starring Cate Blanchett.
Mm-hmm.
This is the movie that's Phoebe's pick.
This was my choice.
It was her choice. So the first thing we got to do is give a one-sentence summary.
Yes,
right?
one sentence, no spoilers.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
And I'm going to look up who directed this film while you do that.
You do that, and I'm going to... on him. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
In this movie, which, by the way, has a 91% Rotten Tomatoes ranking, Cate Blanchett stars as Lydia Tarr, a conductor who is not the best person ever.
Okay.
And she likes to steamroll things. And the story's about, I'm going to call it karma. You know, karma coming into...
Yeah, that's actually really good.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So...
but
if you love
the whole
movies,
time we were watching this, we didn't know that it was going to be about karma. So
Oh,
we
we
were
did.
like, what is going to happen?
yeah. Well, if you really want to watch this movie, now's the time to stop and go watch it. If you're gonna listen to what I have to say, you're gonna get a lot of spoilers. And
All the spoilers.
All the spoilers.
This was written and directed by Todd Field, by the way. He was a budding jazz musician. We know how much you like jazz.
I do like jazz, actually.
No, you don't.
I
like
do
jazz.
like jazz.
What about that musical we went to go see where it was all jazz music?
Okay, no, you can't call that jazz
That's
music.
kind of like this film.
No.
No, that was jazz music. But it was kind of like this film.
Oh,
it was
my
like...
goodness. Yeah, it was like... Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
We're going to slip right into spoilers here because there's no...
So wait, before we're going to rank it.
Oh.
Loved it, liked it, meh, or hated it.
This one...
if you hate it, you have to cite like exactly why you hate it.
Okay, I hated it.
Okay, why?
It was annoying. The movie was choppy. There were tons of scenes that were in there. I have no idea why they were in there. Like all the scenes where it would just cut to her jogging and she would jog for like 30 seconds and then it would cut to another random scene. And
should we start with the summary then? Oh, you hated it.
I did. I hated it.
I feel like it has enough redeeming qualities
No.
Yes, because it tells it's an important story to be told. Like, people, when they get too much power, they start becoming corrupt, and then it's like, look what can happen.
Sure, but everything that it dealt with in this movie was half told. It didn't address anything.
So maybe they don't want to spell it out, though.
There's the whole the gender thing with like the LGBTQ community scene with the young man who's on the conducting and at Juilliard, and she like tears him a new one because he's just a new wave and he's just not dealing with anything. It just seemed to like it had so much potential to actually address several issues, and it addressed none. Sexual harassment.
It did address it, though.
It did not address it.
How did it not address it? By bringing it up, it's addressing it.
So it brought it up.
You're saying it didn't show it.
No, it did. It mentioned it, and then it didn't have any detail of the effect.
It did.
It did not.
The woman committed suicide. That was the effect.
That was at the very beginning. You are correct.
No, it went all the way through halfway into.
She did commit suicide, but at the end, they had the chance to address Tar's sexual harassment of all these other conductors and all these people in the orchestra, and it went from we've got these sexual harassment things going on, and then it cuts to a board meeting where she walks in, and then it cuts off the board meeting. Doesn't address it.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but it definitely addressed it. It didn't show it. It didn't show what happened to her. But then it cut to her being totally blackballed from any of the Western world's conducting scene, and now she's in somewhere totally different and she can't get work.
Okay,
So,
but I think with everything that was going on in the movie, it didn't really say that because there were so many things that she should have gotten fired for
mhm.
that it just didn't address why she got fired.
So I think that this begs the question: why did the director want to not spell it out for you exactly what happened and exactly what the consequences were?
I
Because
don't know.
clearly that was a choice.
It was definitely a
So
choice.
we're supposed to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, but there were a lot of gaps, and like the whole way through the movie, um, there were different things going on that like didn't make sense to the character.
Like what?
Didn't make like the noises she was hearing.
Yeah, there was some unexplained stuff for sure, but I think that they're there so that you can puzzle it out.
What's the puzzle out? She's hearing occasional random noises.
Well, okay, we're going like this in this storytelling of this movie,
We are.
but perhaps
Do you want me to go back to the
sure,
beginning?
but I'm interested in this in what we're talking about. So perhaps they're trying to say with genius also comes, possible like maybe there was something going on. She was losing her mind a little bit and she was starting to hear things, she was seeing things. Whenever she was going out running, I feel like the reason that was in there is because she felt like she was being chased. She always thought that there was somebody behind her. She heard that girl screaming in the woods.
Yeah, I don't know. It just
I think it was all just like a buildup of her character and how her brain is working.
I will say that for 99% of this movie, it was really slow,
Mm-hmm.
really boring, kind of dull, and not appealing.
Okay. So Tim hated it. I liked it. I thought it was okay. In fact, I was at meh until you brought up the fact that it was very much like open holes, and that just talking about it just now made me like it more because it leaves the viewer room for a whole bunch more different interpretations, and everybody has more room to have different experiences with this movie. And I think that's
I,
what art is supposed to be about.
I can see that. I can see where you're coming from on that. I totally disagree.
Okay. So now Tim's going to give us a summary.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, let's
So
get
we
into
watched
this.
this in two sittings. We watched some last night and then we finished it this morning. So it's pretty
Yes,
fresh.
it's about 2.5 hours of torture.
So I feel like you probably aren't going to need your notes very much because it's pretty fresh.
If you happen to not like somebody, you could totally like chain them up in a room and just play this nonstop.
Especially if they don't like music like Tim.
You know what? The
So
music
even
was the best part of this.
But you hate music.
I hate music. That was the best part
No,
of this
it was
movie.
not. What
It
about the
was.
fighting? What about the attack?
What fighting?
You don't remember?
There was one fight.
It was good.
There was one fight, and one lied about fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. You're just pointing out more and more things that I liked.
That I hate. Yes. Okay. Oh, the other thing I hated about this movie. Oh my goodness.
What?
There was like 10 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
At the beginning,
There
people.
was a whole bunch of stuff in this movie that was like made you go, what?
Yeah, like.
But that's what happened in the menu too, and you liked that one.
I liked the menu because the menu actually had some sort of action. It had a plot. It resolved things.
I feel like this had a plot and a resolution.
I don't think
she
it
got
did.
kicked out.
I mean,
She
really,
got replaced.
you
Spoiler,
end up
spoiler.
you end up getting a young girl to commit suicide. You commit sexual harassment, but she does all of these like vile things, and her punishment is she can't work as a conductor anymore.
Okay, we don't know that that's her only punishment because there are so many open spaces for you to fill in the gaps.
There was one other scene punishment. We'll talk about that if you'll ever let me get to my review.
It's just often we're a lot more similar in our opinions of these movies, and you just feel so differently than me.
Yeah. Siskel and Ebert would rate this 2 thumbs down.
No, they would not. They would rate it 91 tomato
Trust
reader,
me,
91%.
They would no.
All right, give us a summary, sir.
All right, so it starts off with several minutes of credits, which
Yeah,
really didn't
with
endear me to
all
the
just
movie.
black.
Yeah, it's just a flat black screen and gray credits for 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes.
It was good.
And so 10
Was there
minutes
even any
later,
music? Was there any music in the
there
movie?
was, there
There was
was,
music.
there was,
Oh,
there was
okay.
music.
Oh, it was somebody singing. It was like a strange song.
Yeah, yeah, a very strange song.
What did that have to do with it?
Nothing. Nothing in this movie had anything to do with
I'm sure.
anything.
I'm sure it had to do with something. We just don't know yet.
Well, I'm not rewatching it to see.
Okay, go ahead. I already bought it. Just
Oh my
kidding.
goodness.
You can watch this on Peacock, by the way.
For free. For
well,
free.
if you subscribe.
Well, yeah, but that's for free. All right. So it starts off Lydia Tarr. She's a conductor at the Philharmonic. They state that she's one of only like a handful of people to have won a Tony, a Grammy, an Emmy, and an Oscar.
Oh yeah, she's an EGOT. Okay.
Right. So she's an EGOT.
The beginning of like, would you say the whole first half of this movie is to set up how awesome she is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would even say the first 3/4 of this movie are her awesomeness.
Kind of.
I,
Anyway, keep going.
all right. We can argue it now or we can argue it later.
So the whole beginning is going to be them showing you how great she is.
And anyhow, so she's being interviewed, and they're talking about all the classical conductors, uh, and then you see like somebody has a cell phone, and they're shooting videos of behind the scenes, what's going on.
It's like a cell phone with a live feed, and people are commenting live.
Right, right. Um, then she's at the opera or orchestra, and she's talking to Elliot. Actually, I think they were at that restaurant. She's talking with Elliot about Sebastian
Yeah.
because Sebastian is the assistant conductor
In Berlin.
In Berlin, and she wants rid of him.
So she's still in New York. She's talking to some guy. He has the money behind something. We didn't know at this point really what his deal is.
It was another very confusing part of this movie. Then we cut to a scene where she's teaching at Juilliard.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, when I say we cut to this scene, it's like
oh yeah,
we cut to this scene.
The film is all very short clips of
Little
just like
clips,
coom, 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 and no transitions.
No transitions of whatsoever. And they're talking about the structure of classical music. The young man was like, "Oh, I don't like all these white cis musicians," and then she goes off on this rant on him about
how he's a millennial robot,
right? And he's arguing that there's no LGBTQ or BIPOC representation in classical music, and she's just like she tears him apart right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyhow.
So, again, the first part of this movie is setting up how she basically gets to feel or think however she wants, and everybody else just needs to do what she
to deal
says.
with it. Yeah. Yeah. In the next scene, we've cut to, she's popping pills.
Oh, yeah. We see that she's taking pills.
Right.
We find out later
they're actually her wife's heart
pills.
medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. To slow down the.
And her assistant's just getting them for her.
Yeah, just helping steal them from her wife.
Yeah.
So she's popping pills on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in a bathroom.
At the very beginning, she also did, right before she went on to that interview.
Right. She did. You're right. But in this scene, she's on the airplane. She's in the bathroom. She pops some pills, and then she opens this gift that somebody sent her.
It was from Krista.
Krista
Taylor.
Taylor. Yeah, I had that somewhere in here.
I didn't really catch what the book was.
It's a book from Krista Taylor. And for some reason, she just rips out like part of the book and throws it in the airplane garbage.
Yeah.
And then stuffs the whole book in there.
Yeah.
And then she gets home in the next scene, and her wife is having a panic attack because
She
she
can't
doesn't
find
have
her
any
heart
pills.
pills. Yeah.
And
And Lydia doesn't ever answer her phone.
right, and so Lydia goes into their bathroom and
She pretends
finds
to find a pill, but she takes it out of her pocket.
right. So she takes it out of her pocket, gives it to her wife, and tells her that she found it in the drawer. Is this the right pill?
Uh
And of
huh.
course it was.
Yeah.
Um, and then the wife mentions that their daughter Petra is coming home with bruises on her knees. Um, so we cut to the next scene, and Lydia's taking Petra to school. She drops Petra off and has Petra tell her which one of these girls is the one bullying her. And she goes over to this little girl who is what, 8, 9,
Yeah,
10?
10 or 11, yeah.
Okay, somewhere in that range. And she's like, look, stop bullying my daughter or I will get you.
Yeah.
And this little girl's like,
And if you
what?
tell any adults, they won't believe you.
Because I'm an adult.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. Wow. So the
And she's
next
talking to her in German too. We're in
right,
Berlin.
right. So there's a lot of German and English mixtures here. Um, so then we cut to the next scene, and Lydia's in the bathroom at the orchestra, and she notices this girl, and
Just the feet of the girl in the bathroom next to
I,
her,
I, I,
right?
I thought, was it just the feet, or did she see the whole girl?
I thought it was just the feet.
Okay, could be. Then they go to this blind audition, and when the girl's walking out, then she sees this
The feet.
girl's feet with the shoes that the other girl in the bathroom was wearing,
Yeah.
and she changes her critique on that girl's card. Um, then we cut to another scene. Um, she starts hearing noises.
She's like plagued by it.
Yeah, yeah. The whole way through the movie, she's like hearing all kinds of weird noises, like
She's
constantly.
trying to compose a piece of music, so it's even more frustrating to her that she can't get quiet.
Yeah. So at this point, she decides she is replacing Sebastian as the assistant conductor.
I kind of feel like she was always going to replace Sebastian. She was just kind of like pretending
Right.
that she wasn't for a little while.
Right. So, is this the part where she tells him she's replacing him? I think it is.
Okay.
And then, so he's really upset.
Yeah.
Um,
But of course, she phrases it as, "You
oh
you
no,
should
I'm
do this
sorry.
other opportunity," but it makes
I have this. I had that in reverse
Oh.
order. So what I have is the assistant is really upset. Um,
Oh, this is when the assistant finds out about the
finds
girl.
out about the
So
girl
the
Krista
assistant has been
Taylor.
fielding all of these emails from Krista Taylor,
Right.
and we don't know their relationship between Lydia and Krista, but the assistant's been dealing with it because Lydia couldn't even deal with it.
Right,
You know?
right.
And now she's really upset because she found out the girl killed herself,
right.
and Francesca didn't help to do anything about it. Her assistant's name is
Francesca. And so Lydia tells Francesca to delete all the emails so that there's no record back to her. Um, and then she goes on, Lydia goes on to her own computer, and she's deleting all the emails where she had sent out
Oh yeah.
blackballing Krista from any
She'd
jobs.
emailed like every conductor.
Yeah. Francesca compiled a list of conductors to be the assistant conductor and take over for Sebastian. And she's like, "Oh, go ahead and put yourself on the list if you want."
Because you can tell this whole time she really kisses up to Lydia.
Right.
Because she's been trying to become the next conductor.
It's
that's not right. Explicitly said, but that's like how the whole movie goes. Nothing's explicitly said.
Exactly. At this point, Lydia's having lunch with Olga because Olga's trying to get into the. Olga is the cello player.
Oh, okay. So they have a new cello player. That's who they were auditioning.
Right. And that's whose shoes she saw.
Yeah.
And she changed her critique to get Olga onto the orchestra. And then she decides that she's going to have a special song?
So people have been asking her, what's your companion piece to this big number that you're performing?
Okay.
However, right before that, Olga's like, I want to send you a video of this person that really impressed me, and this is the person that made me want to become a cellist. And so then later, another cut, you see her watching a video, Tar, but she's not watching a video of the cellist that she sent. She's watching and like devouring this video of the new cellist performing this number.
Right.
So then the next scene goes.
So then next scene, she decides that she's going to have this. What did we just call it?
She's going to have the companion piece be this new number.
Be this new number that she knows Olga can play.
Mm-hmm.
And she opens the competition up to anybody in the orchestra. And so basically...
Any cellist.
Any cellist. Because normally it would be given to the first cellist. First chair cellist.
And she asked the lady in front of the whole orchestra, like,
right.
Would you mind? And of course she minds, but she can't say that. She has to save face, so she's like, okay. Right. So then they're going to have an audition.
Next thing we see, there's accusations have been made about Lydia with the Krista connection.
Who's making these accusations? Her parents, right?
The parents were, yeah, I believe. And so...
Is Lydia just like, whatever?
Well, no, Lydia's told to reach out to them.
They say reach out to the parents?
Yeah, reach out.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah. Wish I had. So, then we go over to Olga. She gets the part. Only 2 cellists decide to even apply for it.
One that's like clearly not good.
Horrible.
Well,
horrible.
I mean, he can't be horrible, or else he wouldn't be in their symphony.
He was horrible at that song.
So then she goes, and it's a blind audition again.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, we all think it should be number 2. And then they look up who it is, and her wife, who is in the orchestra, by the way. She's first chair violin.
Lydia's wife.
And we find out later that they didn't know each other until she came to be the conductor of this. So it's like a series of her getting these women, getting them to like make a step up. Manipulating. And so she's like, well, we can't have her be the soloist. She's not even part of our orchestra yet.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, our only other option is to have this not great person, so they have to go with her.
Yeah, so they go with her. Then they go right into Lydia talking with Francesca and telling Francesca that she's not giving her the position.
Yeah. And Francesca's been just like doing everything for this lady.
Everything.
And of course, what did you say? She like tried to break it to her nicely, and you're like, I hate it when people do that.
It was like, oh, it was a really hard decision. Yeah. No, it wasn't.
No, she had her pick like the whole time, probably.
So, she's talking about how it's a hard decision, and it was really back and forth, and it was so close.
Yeah.
Have you ever been at work and you went for a promotion and you heard those lines? As soon as you hear that come out somebody's mouth. But I had to go with
somebody who was more experienced than you.
You know that next line is that. I had to go with somebody else. Mm-hmm. And, so Francesca's really upset about this.
Yeah.
Cut to the next scene. In the next scene, Olga shows up at Lydia's house. By the way,
She has 2 houses. One is just for composing.
Right. And that's the house that Olga shows up to. And then Olga plays Lydia Tarr's newest composition. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, you should really change this one from A minor to B flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
And Olga's supposed to only be like 20 years old or something. She's really young.
Real young. So then Lydia's playing with Petra.
Mm-hmm.
And that...
It just shows that that's the only person she's really like has a good relationship with.
Yeah. So, and then we cut to the next scene, and in the next scene, Lydia is showing Olga affection.
Where at?
Remember, like, right in the orchestra? She was like, oh yes.
Like right in front of her wife and everything. So Olga tries out the solo spot. And then Lydia's
Right.
like,
Right.
yeah.
So they do the solo, and then Lydia comes up, and she's just like putting hands on
Well,
her,
she just caresses her face one time, right?
and then she sits down and by her and puts her
Oh.
hand on her knee. I was like, wow, right in front of your wife. Francesca quits.
We find out because.
Right.
How do we find out Francesca quits?
Somebody comes in and tells her that she's trying to get a hold of Francesca, and she's talking with this woman, and she's like, oh well, Francesca just sent in a note saying she quits, an email.
And that she was like complying with the people in the deposition to
Right.
like give the emails and stuff.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
video surfaces of like all cut together of her kind of berating that kid in her class.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, and then she's like racing around trying to get to Francesca's apartment,
Oh yeah.
and she's like driving all crazy, and her wife is like, you know what? Stop the car, let me out.
Mhm.
So she does.
Mhm.
And then she goes to Francesca's apartment and is told she's trespassing. So then we cut, and so she has this neighbor
In the second house.
in the second house, and this neighbor is like kind of bizarre because like she's always like knocking on the door and being like, "Did you steal our newspaper?"
Mhm.
And now she like knocked on the door to get Lydia to come over to her apartment to help her
Mhm.
because the mother,
The mom fell out of the wheelchair.
yeah, and so she had to help put her back in. Then Lydia goes back to her apartment and she's like scrubbing herself.
Furiously.
Yeah, and so she's naked, but it's all in shadow,
It's
so you
right
can't
after she
really see.
left their apartment. Like
Yeah.
she's totally grossed out by them. She goes back to their house and is scrubbing
Yeah,
herself.
she goes back to her house and is scrubbing herself, and there's a knock at the door, so she puts on a robe. Um, she opens the door. It's Olga, um, and then they do their thing.
What does that mean?
Well, they're doing the trying the music.
Okay, that's very vague.
I,
So,
I, I,
okay.
I agree. I agree.
Them doing their thing could mean a lot of
I,
things.
I apologize. No, they're not doing their thing yet.
They never actually do.
Do they not?
Right, that's one of the holes that they want you to interpret.
Okay, so Lydia goes to drop Olga off,
Mm-hmm.
and Olga kisses her hand.
Yeah, like kiss the hand of the king kind of thing.
Yeah, and then she goes into her.
She runs into what
Apartment?
looks like it's your apartment, but it's totally just ruins.
Yeah, it's like I never got that in this movie because Lydia is the only one that lives like in a house. Everybody else lives in like the slums,
Yeah.
and so
And
that was kind of weird.
we couldn't really see it. It was really dark, so we couldn't
Very
see
dark.
what.
Very
what
dark. There
She gets scared in there.
towards the end of the movie, I would say about 15 to 20% of the movie gets really dark.
Yeah, like
Just-
totally dark.
Yeah, like I can't even see what I'm seeing. So
So she goes into these ruins and she's like getting kind of creeped out. She's walking through looking for Olga. She hears somebody singing.
yeah,
A lot of this movie makes you think it's
It
about
sounded-
to be like a murder thriller.
yeah, and it sounded like there was like a growling noise.
Yeah,
or
yeah. There was a
something.
growling right before she turns and runs.
And she turns and she runs and she's running up the stairs. She falls.
She trips at the top of the stairs,
And-
face plant.
Yeah, and face plants and busts her face all up. But she was there because Lydia had left her or I'm sorry,
Like
Olga
a teddy bear.
had left her teddy
Yeah.
bear in the car, so she was trying to give that back.
Hmm.
And then she walks into the orchestra.
No, at first she goes home.
Well, she goes home and she tells her wife that
Yeah, her
she-
wife's like, "Why didn't you call the cops?"
yeah. So she implied that she was attacked
Mm-hmm.
and she fought off the attacker. And then when she goes into the orchestra, everybody's like looking at her because
Well, she looks really beat up.
Yeah, her face is all busted up, and she makes a joke about it, and they move on.
She's like, "Yeah, I was accosted by somebody."
Yeah, it was attacked, and
Yeah.
you should see the other guy.
Yeah.
And she said something like, "Let's get rid of the elephant in the room before you're asking if I went in to have
Plastic surgery.
and the doctor got scared and ran out halfway through. Now I got attacked and I fought him off." So Then they go to actually conducting the music. And when they're conducting this music, she is like making the craziest movements. Like, she's like doing the running man. Ah, yeah!
It's like she's in a fight scene in a movie.
Yeah. She looks like John Wick. You know, she fighting off all
She's
of them.
feeling it, babe.
She was definitely into it. And then she goes to the doctor. The doctor says that she has an issue with the nerves in her shoulder from falling down, but it'll go away. And I'm like, why was that important?
Probably because she really needs her arms for conducting, so she's like really concerned that she's hurt herself permanently.
But you saw her right before that, you know, doing the robot.
I know, but if you put yourself in her position, it's a pretty bad thing to injure your arms if you're a conductor.
Sure, okay. Then somebody sends the video of.
That's when the video.
That's when the video is sent.
Oh, okay.
And they had kind of taken this video that they recorded to Juilliard, and they chop it all up and they put it together so it looks as bad as possible, and they send it out. And so the board calls her in over that, and they're like, well, what's going on here? And of course she's like, oh, well, you can see it's just a hatchet job. They're trying to get me. And all right, so she's in front of the board talking about this video and how it's a hatchet job. And then they're like, oh, well, what about these sexual harassment charges?
Yeah.
Or, you know, the Washington Post.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, oh, well, that's not reputable anyhow.
Yeah.
And we're like, what? and so they're like, well, we need you to meet with us on Friday. And she's like, oh, I can't. I got a book signing. What was it? A book signing, and a deposition in New York that she had to go to. So she takes Olga with her, of course.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, Olga's her right-hand man.
Again, another spot in the movie where they don't explain it at all. Is you just see that Olga's with her all of a sudden. You're like, what?
Yeah, Olga's with her, and they're in New York. And, like, Lydia's like, oh, hey, why don't we go to dinner?
Yeah, Lydia's trying to pick her up.
Olga's like, nah, I got jet lag. I'm going to go to bed. And Lydia's like, oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, and then later you see her with somebody else going back into her hotel room, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know if that was somebody else or it was just somebody going into a hotel room. Yeah. Anyhow. Next thing they cut to is there's an argument between her and her wife. The wife is like, you know, the only person you actually don't think of as a transactional relationship is with Petra, the daughter. And after that, they cut to she's in the parking garage, parking her car.
So her wife's not even mad at her for potentially cheating on her. She's mad at her for not giving her a heads up about all the sexual harassment stuff in the news.
So she wasn't able to protect her family from it. So Lydia pulls into the parking garage, and you see there's a bunch of board members waiting right there at the entrance. They walk in. Then she walks in to the boardroom, and like the boardroom is filled with the board members. And then you cut scene. So her life is falling apart. She's really starting to crack. So she goes to the school to pick up her daughter, and you know, she's hugging her daughter, and the wife comes in and takes Petra and leaves. And she's like, no conversation. No.
But yeah.
And then it cuts back to her house, and the old lady that we had mentioned a few minutes ago has passed away. And so there's
the
family is at the door, and they're like, hey, you know, the mom died. Our sister, we had to put in a home.
We're going to sell
the apartment. We were just wondering when, you know, like, how often do you play the music? And she's like, oh well, thank you. I'm
I'm so
glad
glad you
you
enjoyed
so
it.
glad you enjoyed it. And she's like going to shut the door, and they're like, no, we want to know so that we cannot show the apartment at that time,
So we don't scare anybody
so we don't
off.
scare anybody off. And she just cracks, and she's like cackling, and
She's like, we wouldn't want to scare anybody
what is
off.
what is that
Slam.
thing that she got
The
the
accordion.
accordion? She gets out an accordion. He's like,
After they're gone. Yeah, so
and
she's
she's
playing it and singing
yeah
loudly.
singing loud. You put your sister in jail
Yeah.
and
Apartment for sale. You put
apartment
your
for
sister in
sale.
jail.
Yeah, and
She's
it's
just screaming it.
just like, what is going on now? So then we cut to the show. She's backstage. Um,
She's doing something in the bathroom.
oh yeah,
This part. I was like, what is she doing, Tim? Her feet were not. She's like, this reminded me of the movie Scream. You know where she's looking under the stalls to see if Ghostface is there, and then you see them put the boots down.
yeah.
That's what they do in this movie. It's like, what was she doing?
Well, she was hiding, so no one would see her, I guess.
That's so weird.
And anyhow, so she's backstage. She's all dressed in her coat and tails, and the music's playing, and we're looking at
it
each
starts.
other. We're looking at each other like, why?
Why are they starting
Why
without
are they
her?
starting without her? And so she starts walking out.
And then she starts
And
running.
then she just starts running and growling.
She's
and,
walking like from back through the performers.
Yeah, through the performers.
Straight at the conductor.
Yeah, and she tackles him.
Yeah.
And then she's like, all right, I need eyes. Everybody, eyes.
Yeah, so she like commands the podium. She's getting ready to go.
Yeah, and the other conductor
all the
was
people
like,
are looking at her like,
yeah, and the other conductor gets up and he's like, what are you doing? And she like just starts beating him.
yeah. It's Elliot from the beginning of the show,
Yes.
who was also kissing her butt, asking like, how, give me some tips, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so you figure out that.
Yeah, it's my composition.
So you figure out that she's been replaced by the board, but it is
Yeah.
not clear at all.
Not clear
Like
until
it's
that.
like, is this a dream sequence?
Yeah.
Has this whole thing been not real? Like, is he the actual conductor of this thing?
Yeah.
But so she was replaced. That's what we figured, and she snuck in, and that's why she was hiding in the bathroom.
Yes, exactly.
And so then the cops or security takes her out
Yeah.
in handcuffs, and then it cuts to.
And then it cuts to New York again.
Yeah, she went to New York.
Yeah, she went back to her childhood home, and so then it cuts to.
And her brother's there, and her brother's like, "Hi, Linda," and he's like, "Oh, Lydia." I mean, so she had like
Yeah.
changed her name because Linda wasn't good enough for her, or whatever you figure.
Yeah, and then
And then he's like, "Are you hiding out?" And she's like, "Why would I be hiding out?"
yeah, and then it cuts to Thailand. I'm not exactly sure where she's at. It's definitely not in the States. There's like foreign language written on all the signs. So I think it's Thailand.
And she goes to meet with
She goes to meet with somebody.
a family.
Yeah, like this family, and the kids bring her flowers, and then the next thing you see, it cuts to this scene where she's coming out in front of a kids orchestra, and as she gets ready to start conducting, these 3 screens come down, kind of like a green screen, behind the
first,
orchestra.
before the performance, they're in a practice. And she's like, let's talk about what the intention of the composer is.
Yeah.
So you think that, okay, she's like just, with another orchestra, she's going to be conducting them, and then...
So I think that part is the like her redemption. So she went back.
I don't think so.
So I do. Hear me out on this. I think that is, after all this stuff happened, she went home. She started watching all the old videos that got her into conducting to begin with. And she kind of had a reset. And she determined that the reason she liked conducting was because she enjoyed the feel of the music and the power of the music and all the emotions that go along with it, rather than all the crazy stuff she was getting into as a major
Okay,
conductor.
I can see that, but in my personal opinion, that is not what they're saying. What they're saying
Well, they
is
don't really explain it,
okay.
so
So my interpretation is she literally is like the most prideful human. She gets all the way through the end, never once admitting her wrong in any of it, even to her brother. She was alone with her brother, who she could have be totally humbled with, admit her failings, and she doesn't. She still pretends that she did nothing wrong. She goes somewhere so far from home so that hopefully nobody will know what she did wrong, and she's still just gonna try to pretend to be like this person of greatness still. And the reason for watching the video, in my opinion, was that she was like, oh yeah, I really, really admire this guy. Let me do what he did, and then I'll get some of my prestige back. So she's going to go be a youth orchestra conductor.
I mean,
That's how I took
I
it.
could see how you would take that.
Because she never once admits she's wrong, ever.
Well, who does?
Lots of people do.
No.
That's why I don't think it's a story of redemption. And that's why I think you didn't like it. Because she never got her comeuppance, but like really it's just going to show that she was so prideful she could never admit that she was wrong ever.
No, I can see that. I can see where you're coming from on that.
So we didn't even finish. The end, she looks like she's about to conduct this orchestra. And then what?
And then the screens drop down behind the orchestra.
Yeah, so we know it's gonna be an orchestra in front of a video with talking.
Right. And
you don't even get to just listen to her music.
And so then they start playing.
They pan the audience.
And they pan the audience, and like on the screens are like these flags that are waving. And the audience is like, they're all dressed up as like Vikings and orcs. And,
animals. They were like all kinds of creatures.
Yeah, and it was just a really bizarre ending.
Super bizarre.
And, oh, by the way, that's the end.
That's how it ends, which was perfect. I was like, oh, please don't show any more.
She did say that. And
because you're just left there going, what is she doing?
It's funny because we both had that exact emotion. Mine was after the credits rolled at the beginning, and yours was at the end.
How could you know you didn't want it to start if you didn't know anything about the film?
Because it started with 10 minutes of credits.
You know, to be fair, it was probably more like 3.5.
Felt like 53.5.
So, did I convince you at all any more about any redeeming qualities of this film, though? Because all you can align with at the end of this movie was how to not be, and it's a very strong directive.
I already know how to not be a douche.
No, I think that a lot of people are douches all the time, and you just get going on your train of douche town, and you don't ever like get confronted with your wrongs. And she was like hardcore confronted and still couldn't.
True. I'm still gonna say that
it ruins it for me if you think
2.5 hours of my life.
No, it was not. We've watched much worse.
Was.
So in my
literally,
opinion,
if I could have shut that movie off, I would have.
In my opinion, it ruins it if you think that she found redemption in the end.
I do. I absolutely.
You really think she found redemption?
I think she found redemption in her own heart.
Oh no! You're just doing that to disagree with me.
I am totally 100% not.
All right. Well, you guys, we usually decide who wins based on if the person who suggested the film was able to convince the new viewer that it was good. And Tim really doesn't think it's good. I'm going to have
to say that this was a tie. No one wins. This is
far from a tie. We usually kind of agree on our opinions.
No one wins this movie. No one.
Well, in typical form, we would give the point to Tim because
it's my point, but no one wins. No one's won.
I did not come out worse after watching this movie. I came out better. I got to listen to some good music.
Goodness.
I got to watch this character arc of this person who you think is like, what is she thinking about herself? How can you be like so egotistical?
There are two things that I got out of this movie. Two.
Okay.
Number one, don't ever want to watch a Cate Blanchett movie ever again.
What?
Number
I really
two.
like Cate Blanchett.
Number two, don't ever want to watch a Todd, whatever his name is, movie again.
It was good.
It was
What
not
about
good.
the part where she was playing the accordion? We liked that part. And the part where she chased the guy down and attacked him? We liked that
Two and
part.
a half hours. We're talking about 30 seconds worth of video. The part I liked about this movie was the music.
Hmm. I think you just haven't sat with this long enough to think about some good parts about it.
Good part is it's over.
Well, I think that's going to wrap up our review
Oh,
today.
don't we get to do like the question and answer section?
Oh, sure, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
It's been a minute since we filmed.
it has. It has. What do you got for me?
So, what was your favorite part?
The ending.
Did your opinion of this movie change as you watched it?
Yes, it absolutely
Really?
did. It
It seemed
absolutely
like you
did.
were like set out to hate this movie.
No, 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 no. I actually went into this movie with a very open um, mindset.
Really?
In fact,
Mm-hmm.
last week I almost picked this as my movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I really wish you did.
I know, me too. Because what did I pick last week? 80
80
for
for
Brady.
Brady.
Um, I win, she lose. But I honestly thought about picking this one, and I'm totally glad I hadn't because I would have felt ripped off. And we didn't pay anything for this movie.
Okay. Well, we did pay something for this
Not really. Not in the grand scheme of things.
movie. Okay, so would you watch anything by this director again?
No.
Tim really didn't like the shortcuts and
I
people not explaining what the heck they're doing.
So I'm very linear when it comes to a movie. There should be a
To be
beginning.
fair, this movie does not jump forward and back in time.
No, it does not jump forward and back in time, but it
So it's still
also
linear.
it is linear, but it's linear in a way that is the worst way possible because it's like I'm gonna jump to this random bug crawling on a wall, and
You
then I'll
know,
come back to her jogging, and then I'll come to an actual scene where
random bug crawling on the wall. We need to watch this again
no
and try
no
to
no
figure
no
out
no 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 no
the
no
reason that the director wanted to make those shortcuts.
because he had 2.5 hours to fill up, and he didn't have enough good scenes to put in.
No.
I'm telling you, it's what
He
it
could have
is.
filmed all the reasons behind everything, but he chose
I
not
know.
to.
Like this movie was as long as Avatar.
Here's what. I'm pretty sure he didn't want to show all the sexual harassment and everything because he didn't want to glorify that part. He just wants you to be
Okay,
like, everybody knows what that looks like. I don't need to show you that.
sure, got you on that, but I don't know.
I'm gonna watch it again.
I am not.
All right, I think that's all the questions
I've got
we'll
to
ask.
wash my hair while she's doing that.
All right, guys. So sound in down below. Let us know. Are you Team Z or Team P on this one? And we'll see you back for the next
Do
video.
not be Team Tar, because that
Don't do it.
horrible.
No, it's okay if you agree with me.
It's not
Don't
okay.
let him bully
It
you
is
into
not
feeling
okay
that
if
you
you
have to
agree with
share his
her on
opinion.
this. See, this is one of the movies that you're
Yeah.
like, we have to watch because she's being nominated for an Academy
It's
Award.
true.
And literally, I have said, what have I always said about an Academy Award nomination?
You never like the films.
I never like the films because
They're too highbrow for
they're
us.
too artsy fartsy. And literally, that's all this was art.
I'm sorry. I liked it. I like a little bit of mystery. I like sitting there and going.
What was the mystery?
I like sitting there and being like, well, why was she hearing all the sounds? Why was she feeling that somebody was chasing her? Why? There's
Was
so
that
many whys.
ever wrapped up?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's a mystery. It makes you think about it. Tim doesn't want to have to work that hard while he's watching his movie.
I'm like, I watch a movie for entertainment value.
So many times when we were watching this, we were like, we'd look at each other. What?
What?
Hey, you got to spend some time with me. That was
I
nice.
did. That was the only redeeming quality of this movie.
Except we weren't really talking during it, so.
We should have because
We
I
were
was
sitting
battling
next
to
to each
sleep.
other. Okay, well, that's going to be for today. Our next movie review, Tim hasn't chosen yet, so you will find out
Titanic.
soon. You will find out soon what we're gonna watch for
Um,
that review.
I'm really leaning towards Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
That seems like that would be a fun one. I really enjoy Chris Pine and
Okay. See, maybe I'm just more open-minded because I'm not mad at any of your suggestions except for John Grisham. I was like,
so here's the difference.
mm-hmm.
I pick things that are okay. You
Don't
pick
you dare!
garbage.
Don't you
You
dare!
pick I'm sorry, garbage.
Garbage. Okay.
Sorry, I'll bougie it up there for you a little
I'm not
bit.
sure if it's very clear how you feel about this, but let's end before you say clearly how you feel in the theme of this movie. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you back for another one.
I'll tell you how
What?
much I like this movie.
91%?
No. I enjoyed my vasectomy more.
Oh my gosh. No, you did not.
I did.
This movie was not painful.
This movie was that painful.
Okay, way more painful to watch. Alvin and the Chipmunks, the shipwrecked one.
Nope.
Way more painful.
No. Alvin and the Chipmunks, I could watch all day long compared to that.
Okay, honey. We gotta let the folks go.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you hanging in there with us on a tough story.
It's not tough.
It was.
I'm sure most of you
horrible.
enjoyed it. I'm sure 91% of you enjoyed it.
It's horrible.
All right, we'll see you back for another one. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your week.
Up next will be a book.
No, next will be your movie.
My movie.
Because it goes book, movie, book.
Book, movie, book. But
Right.
when do we have the one-offs?
We'll have another episode of just one episode. If you haven't caught that yet, we have a few for you where you can see what we think about TV shows after just watching one episode.
Yep, go watch that, but don't watch Tar.
Yes, watch Tar.
Do not do it. Run. Save yourselves. All right, friends. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, whenever you're watching this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go watch some films. Tell us what you have watched lately and what we should watch.
Yeah, let us know if there's anything you want us to review down below.
Mm-hmm.
Boop, 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 boop. Don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe, the little bell, bing-a-ling-a-ling, and get those notifications.
Good one, babe.
Thanks.
All right, we'll see you later.
All right.
Bye. You're not going to say bye?